Anyone who has ever watched someone dear pull out of the driveway after a party knows the fear. Cars and booze, the ingredients of tragedy, especially during the holiday season when more alcohol-related driving accidents happen than at any other time of the year. Pelle Lindburgh is now just another statistic. He had left his native Sweden with a talent so big it couldn't be confined. His odyssey brought him fame and glory and fortune, but as Connie Chung tells us, it was an odyssey which ended with one for the road.
Roger, with growing awareness of the drunk driving problem, people are no longer willing to write off fatal alcohol-related accidents. Going after the drunk driver is not enough. Victims, their families, and friends are beginning to feel someone else must be held responsible. They're looking to bars and restaurants who serve drunk drivers, or even you, the host of a party. Tonight, we look at the debate over who should be held responsible for a drunk driver, with the case of Pelle Lindburgh, who is the best goalie in the National Hockey League.
Everybody knows him. Knows that he was the most happy guy in the world. He was really well, he loved life. He really did, and he took all chances to have a good time in life. And he loved hockey. That was his main thing. And already when he was 7 years old, he told his mother he was wanting to play in America in the National Hockey League, and well, his dream came true in that way. Well, I wasn't with him that night when it happened, but well, I always thought that drinking and driving doesn't go together, and we still don't know what really happened with Pelle.
If you are serving to someone that you have reason to believe is intoxicated, you have an obligation and a duty, and a legal duty, to stop.
If, in fact, the bar owner gave him so much liquor, and if, in fact, there was a way of knowing that he was drunk, and he still sold him more liquor, then not only, in my mind, should he be held civilly responsible, I think he might perhaps be held criminally responsible.
If, in fact, you must serve a visibly intoxicated person to be responsible, I think we can safely conclude that we should not be held responsible.
Pelle Lindburgh was the Philadelphia Flyers' star goalie, a 26-year-old Swede with extraordinary reflexes.
Oh, Lindbergh, a glorious save! Oh.
He could stop a puck flying at him at 100 miles an hour. At the 1980 Olympics, he played on the Swedish hockey team that won the bronze medal.
We were the only team that didn't get beat by the U.S. We tied them 2-2, or they tied us 27 seconds to go in the first game, and we were really disappointed, but it ended up to be the only team that didn't get beat by them. And I had a lot of good memories from that Olympics.
He had a passion for speed. His most prized possession, a high-performance turbocharged Porsche 930, worth more than $100,000. The last time Pelle Lindburgh drove his Porsche was after a home game in Philadelphia last month. Pelle didn't play that game. It was a normal night off for him. Flyer captain Dave Pullen picks up the story from here.
And after winning 10 straight, everybody was in a pretty good mood, and it's almost an unwritten that you'll go out and get something to eat with your family or whatever, and then most of the guys will congregate later in the evening at a bar or a club or whatever, and have a drink to celebrate.
After the game, Pelle went home for dinner with his fiancée, Kirsten Peach.
It was almost 1 o'clock when he thought he still wanted to go out and see the rest of the guys because he knew they were expecting him, and he wanted me to go too, and I'm still blaming myself. I never did.
Lindburgh left his New Jersey home just outside Philadelphia and went to Bennigan's, where he met his teammates and drank at least 2 beers and a liqueur called peppermint schnapps. Somerdale, New Jersey police detective Charles Pope investigated Lindbergh's last night. Do you know if he was intoxicated when he was here?
We have no indication that he was, no. He left Bennigan's approximately 2:30 in the morning. He went out the route I'm taking here and went to the Coliseum, which is a health spa and restaurant and bar combined.
How long was Pelle Lindburgh at the Coliseum bar?
Approximately 2.5 hours. He arrived here around 3 o'clock and left approximately 5:30, 5:35.
Player Brad Marsh was among those at the bar with Pelle.
To me, he didn't seem intoxicated. There was other players on the team in far worse shape than he was.
Kathy McNeil, who also was at the Coliseum bar, told her lawyer, Joe Pizzullo, that Lindbergh had at least a beer and a B-52, which is vodka, Bailey's Irish Cream, and Kahlua.
Obviously, everyone was drinking. It was, I understand, a party with quite a few of the Flyers there, and they were drinking.
At about 5:30 a.m., McNeil and 28-year-old Ed Parvin left the Coliseum bar with Lindbergh and squeezed into his two-seater Porsche.
Two witnesses who were behind him stated that when he turned on the Summerdale Road, he did weave a little into the oncoming traffic lane. They came to the stoplight. Pelle stopped his car in this lane. The two young ladies pulled up beside him. The light turned green, and Mr. Lindbergh took off. Mr. Lindbergh drove his vehicle down Summerdale Road, just as I am now, approached the curb, didn't turn the vehicle at all, and went right into the wall, right here.
Lindbergh was brain dead when he arrived at the hospital. Tests taken there show his blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit allowed in New Jersey. 3 days later, he died when his life support systems were removed. Passenger Ed Parvin fractured his skull, has amnesia, and has lost his ability to speak. The other passenger, Kathy McNeil, also was injured seriously.
Have you found a way to deal with it?
Yeah, you just take, day by day.
Kathy McNeil fractured her pelvic bone, ruptured her spleen, and suffered internal bleeding.
I had a badly bruised left side of the face here, and I had internal bleeding, which I had to have operation done. I have a scar now from that. Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm lucky to be here today.
Lawyers for both McNeil and Parvin now are investigating the possibility of holding the Coliseum Bar and Bennigan's responsible for their clients' injuries. In 38 states, bars and restaurants can be held liable for drunk driving accidents. The laws in some states date back to the 1800s, but recently the campaign against drunk driving has intensified, and in the last year, lawsuits against bars and restaurants have increased 300%.
Each person to a person felt that Pelle Lindburgh was not visibly intoxicated.
Charles Cassio is manager of the Coliseum Complex, a family sports and recreation center that includes the Flyers practice rink and the private club where Pelle Lindburgh was drinking. Cassio believes holding his bar responsible for Pelle Lindburgh's accident would be unfair.
I don't know if anyone has the ability, short of a blood test, to tell if someone is drunk. What we can do is determine if that person visibly appears or acts drunk.
That man, because he has a license to serve alcohol in the state of New Jersey, has a duty to find out and know. Otherwise, if he feels that way, possibly should not own a liquor license.
Joe Pizzullo represents Kathy McNeil.
Do you think bars should be held responsible?
Positively and unequivocally, yes. And if the Coliseum is going to take a license, they are responsible for anything that flows from that license, of which they are serving drinks.
Bar owners across the country are fearful of lawsuits, but they're not the only potential targets of drunk driving liability. Even homeowners in 3 states have been liable for drunk driving accidents. 2 years ago, New Jersey lawyer George Chamlin won the first so-called social host case in the country that was not overturned by a court or legislature. He sued a man who served too many drinks to a guest who became involved in a drunk driving accident. Pelle Lindburgh killed himself and injured 2 others. And while the lawyers battle over the liability questions, his fiancée, his family, and his friends live with the reality of drinking and driving.
Who is responsible for Pelle's death?
Well, I can't hold anybody responsible for it. No one except himself.
Ironically, when Pelle Lindburgh played hockey in Sweden, he appeared on a poster urging people not to drink. Sweden has perhaps the toughest drunk driving laws in the world. Lindbergh's fiancée believes if he had been drinking that night in Sweden, he would not have been allowed to drive, and he'd be alive today. Roger?
Connie, thank you.